Okay. Well, thank you. I didn't do a damn thing. Hey, you're way too easy. You know, you're like a desperate hooker. Please. Yes. Well, my name is Melvin Snerdley.
Hi, Melvin.
How are you? Let's hear it for Melvin. Yes. Actually, my name's Gil Gerard. Some of you would probably take it seriously and think my real name was Melvin Snerdley, and my mother would really be pissed because my real name is Gil Gerard. I didn't make it up. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you. Oh, bless you. If I was like Jackie Gleason, it'd be like, oh, yeah. Act like it's a martini or some shit, but it's only water. Now, what I usually do is I don't sit up here and give you a bunch of, lecture and tell you how everything was. I ask you to take pictures. It's been a long day, okay? Cut me some slack. I'm old, I'm worn out. Anyway, I ask people to ask questions if they have something that they'd like to find out about the show or anything in my career or whatever. I don't talk about my sex life because it's really very boring. And I don't want to put you all to sleep before you go home. But other than that, anything's open. So let me see a hand. Somebody raise your hand. Yes, sir. And then you. Yes, sir.
First of all, what motion picture work have you done? And I told you earlier that one of my favorite episodes was Space Vampire. And
right.
I'd like to share another one with you where there was a duplicate Buck.
Oh, that was, I think it was called Buck Times 4.
Oh.
Where Ardala, I've forgotten now, but I played 4 different Buck Rodgers. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
That was kind of fun. Yes, sir.
Do you have any particular favorite episodes?
Say again?
Do you have any particular favorite episodes?
I didn't quite understand.
Favorite episode?
My favorite episode?
Yeah.
I think I told you there was the Seder.
I don't remember that. What was that about?
It was about a lady and her son that were living out on a prairie on another planet. And their husband had mutated into this satyr, which was a guy with horns and hair and had an electric whip. And
Actually, I think I remember that now. You were turning into some kind of a big bearded
I was
monster?
turning into a satyr.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember now.
Yeah, okay, good.
What motion picture work have you done?
Well, huh? I never did a movie called We're in the Panel Room. Honestly, again.
You said you were going to talk about your sex life, so
I never. Oh, no. Oh, he left. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I did one called Man on a Swing, which was with Joel Gray in New York, and then I did Airport 77. Buck Rodgers was a motion picture. Then I've done tons of television movies, but that's about it as far as I produced a motion picture called Hooch, a low-budget film we shot in North Carolina. I also produced a Broadway play, a musical called Amen Corner. I got to work with Jimmy Baldwin, who was one of the premier black playwrights and authors in the world. Part of the Lost Generation in Paris. He was very interesting to talk to. That's about it. Other than that, I've only done like 40 years of work.
And one last one.
Yes, sir.
How's your co-star Erin Gray doing now?
She's hooking, I think, on Hollywood Boulevard.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me interrupt really quickly. I know all day we've been trying to say, you can't sit in the first 3 rows unless you're VIP or press, but at this point in time, I would like to welcome everybody to come on up front and sit wherever you like, if you'd like.
In my mind, you're all VIP.
Yeah, you're all VIP.
You're not press, but you're all VIP. Okay, now the guy that was asking the other question is gone. Oh, there you go. Oh, that's okay. Shame on you. Okay. Somebody else had, yes, sir.
What are some of your passions or hobbies that you like to pursue in your off time?
Well, my passion really is this business. I really enjoy it. I write. I write poetry. I'm a published poet. I was actually included in an anthology of American poets. My poem was the title poem of it. I like to play golf. I love the game, and it was interesting when I first took it up. Friends of mine said, "Oh, you don't have enough stress in your life?" I didn't realize what they were talking about until I started playing the game. I also like to play tennis. I used to fly, not this way, but when I'm playing, and scuba dive. I've scuba dived all over the world. I've done probably, 400 or 500 dives. One in a two-man sub to the about 1,000 feet down in the Cayman Trench, which was kind of interesting. I've gotten an opportunity to do all kinds of really great stuff because of Buck Rodgers, which I'm very thankful for. I've flown 4 military jets, taken them all supersonic myself, slammed the throttles forward and took off. I've done aileron rolls at twice the speed of sound in an F-15 Eagle, which is pretty incredible. Met an amazing number of people in our armed forces who are inspiring to me as far as their dedication and their patriotism, their true patriotism. They don't walk around going, "Oh, I'm an American." They just go around risking their lives for the rest of us. And I was very impressed with the quality of our military in the Air Force, the Navy, the Marine Corps, all of them. My wife is a 20-year veteran. She retired as a Navy chief. So the last thing she did was she taught Marines going to Iraq close-in hand-to-hand combat. So I do not piss her off. But she's got letters from guys thanking her for saving their lives. So I thought was pretty incredible. Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi. How are you doing?
Saw you a few years ago. Okay. Do you have any favorite TV shows that you watch now or anything?
Yeah, actually, the one that just started was is Sherlock Holmes. I really enjoyed that, the new one. I think the guy who plays Dr. Watson makes that series because he's such a great foil to Sherlock, and they're both a great team. But I think he really does add that little bit of bump to it that makes it really interesting. He's a very funny guy. I've seen him in some other films, and he's got a great sense of humor. Let's see, Doctor Who, which my wife unfortunately got me started watching that. I remember I watched one of the original Dr. Hughes, that's always good, way back when. Let's see, what else? I'm kind of trying to like Banshee, which is a pretty hardcore kind of, you like that? Yeah. It's kind of a hardcore. I mean, it's some of the stuff is a little difficult to take, but it's it's interesting. I think the guy that left True Blood, isn't that his new show, Banshee? Yeah. So he's continued with the violence and the boobies and everything else, but True Blood is kind of on the edge anymore with me. I'm a little tired of sweaty sex in the middle of the woods for no particular reason than just to show somebody's butt and somebody's tits. Okay, I've already seen those things all my life. I like them, but I'd like there to be a reason why I'm seeing them again and again and again. If I'm watching the show, I'd like to watch the show, and if I want to go do that, I'll go to some strip bar, which I do not understand. I do not understand that at all. I mean, I'll tell you this, there's no children in here. Okay. A friend of mine who shall go nameless. I was in Detroit doing a celebrity golf tournament for charity, and went out with him and some of his business colleagues before the tournament started, and he said, "Oh, we're going to go to a great place tonight. You're going to love it. It's called the Runway." And right away, I knew what it was. I said, "You're talking about a titty bar?" And I hope none of you are offended, ladies, by that, but that's what they call them. Anyway, he said, "Yeah, it's really the best one around." So, okay, so we go, and I'm sitting there, and I'm watching, and it's like, okay, this is fine. I could not understand all this stuff about this thing, you know? So he bought me a lap dance. So the girl comes over, and she says, "You know, your friend bought a lap dance." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, you're really lovely and very sexy. And just on a carnal level, I would love to, take you down someplace and do you dirty. But I said, I gave up dry humping in high school. So I said, I can't touch you and you're just going to grind on my crotch." I said, "That really bores the crap out of me." So I said, "Huh? You pay for what?" "Oh, blue balls." Yeah. Well, that wouldn't give me blue balls. I'm sorry. It just was like, so I said, you want to sit and talk through this segment of the song that he paid for?" And she was like, "Okay." I said, "Money's the same, right?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." So we sat and talked through the song, and that was it. That's just sort of my feeling about it. It's like, you can't touch anybody. You can't do anything. And anyway, that's another story. We don't need to go any further than that. So how did we get on to that anyway? That must have been a very nasty question you asked me.
The TV shows.
Favorite TV shows, and I ended up in a titty bar. Oh, I know, because I was talking about like True Blood and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. There are some others, but I once did an interview for medical school, and the guy asked me what books I read, and I've read an enormous number of books, right? And all I could think of was like comic books. Not going to impress a guy at a medical school with your intellectual, strivings if you talk about comic books. It's like, what happened to my brain? So now you ask me about favorite TV shows, and I have a ton of them, and I can't think of a one, except for Sherlock, which is good, and Banshee. A couple of them just went off. They just finished their seasons, and now I can't think of them. Out of sight, out of mind. But most of them are not network shows. Say again? Homeland, yes. I like that one. Boardwalk Empire, I like that. I think it's very well written. Yeah, those are the two that just went off for the season. But interesting stuff. I like stuff that makes you think about things and gives you a different point of view. So, yes, sir.
Yes, just like to say welcome back to Albuquerque again.
Thank you.
The last time you were here, you were the very first celebrity autograph that I got. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well, thank you.
When you kickstarted.
And you're still speaking to me. That's incredible.
Yes.
Actually, the last time I was here was it last year? I've been to Albuquerque about 4 times doing charity golf tournaments, which has been really fun. Met a lot of great people. I've seen more of Albuquerque than I ever did doing one of these shows, because in the show I'm here all day, and by the time I finish at night, it's like I get some room service, read a little bit, and get ready for the next day. Because as you know, I work very hard. So hard. Oh, mea culpa. Oh, my God. Anyway, but I met some very nice people in Albuquerque. I like the place.
Good. Also, before I ask my few questions, I don't know if anyone's done it already before, but I just want to say thank you to the volunteers that at the Comic-Con here today, and this lovely lady for their work today.
When I see, you got to wait till the last day to do that, because now they're ruined.
Won't be here.
They won't be worth killing tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, today's my only day, though.
Okay, so now you're getting to a couple of questions?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess the first is when after the Buck Rodgers show, did you get to keep any props or wardrobe?
I could have had them all. I could have had everything, including the Starfighter.
Nice.
And I said, what in the hell am I going to do with that? Stick it in my backyard and charge the neighborhood kids 25 cents to ride in it? I mean, yeah, I could have had all the wardrobe, everything. I do have all of the leather jackets I wore from that show. They're still hanging in my closet. I still wear them. I take very good care of stuff. We turned him into a toaster. Actually, Felix Silla they gave him the suit. He was smart. He took that. And he kept it for a number of years. And I think about 3 or 4 years ago, he sold it for about $25,000. And he said it was just ratty. Because, it wasn't made of metal. It was made of foam and painted with an aluminum color and to look metallic. And those things are not supposed to last for 20 or 30 years. They're just supposed to last until you finish the show. But he had it there for quite a while. But yeah, I could have had it all. I do have the model of the Starfighter that was used in all of my battle scenes on the show.
Very nice.
Yeah, I have it in a lucite case, in a mirrored bottom, on a lucite stand, and set in such a way that you can see all the really great work those guys did without having to open the case. And then I have all the guys at Heartland, which is the company that did all the special effects. They all signed the bottom of the wooden base that they gave me with the thing. So I have that on a display. So it sits in my family room where I work out. So I can remember those guys and the great work they did.
That was good. That was good work. It was.
It was incredible.
And my second question is, do you have an update on your book series that you're coming up with? Like the first?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. We have, he's been holding his hand up. Sorry, he's been holding his hand up for a long time. And I talked him into coming in, so I have to give the man a shot. Yes, sir.
How was it
you?
working with legendary Mel Blanc?
Well, I didn't actually work with Mel, but when they changed the voice of Twiki in the second season, I made them put Mel back. It hasn't been a long day. And because of that, he was very appreciative, and we got to be friends. I was invited to his home. I went to his home, and, he had his own sound studio in his home. All the stuff he did it at home. He didn't have to leave. But Mel was a great, great guy, and the funny thing is that when we shot the feature, Twiki did not have a voice. It was totally silent. There was no dialogue between Buck and Twiki. And because Felix Silla did such a great job creating that character from nothing, they added voice to it. And they picked Mel to do it. And it was so jarring initially, having done the entire film without any kind of voice from Twiki, to then have him talking was like, and he didn't need that. He was great the way he was. But, even though I really didn't care for it, there was no way I was going to let him kick Mel off the show and bring in, and it was a horrible voice. I don't know who did it, but it was just terrible. So they brought him back. But Mel was a great guy. Yeah, all that stuff was done when we were on the set. The script woman, actually, was the one who said the lines. Even though I was looking at Felix, the woman sitting over here was saying Twiki's lines, and I was talking to him, doing it that way. It's a glamorous showbiz. Yes, sir.
Yes, in season 1 of Buck Rodgers, you guys were in New Chicago. You had a squadron there, and you were based out of there.
Yeah.
But in the later seasons, you got on this thing called the USS Explorer or something, and then you guys went around the galaxy. I don't know why.
Yeah, ripping off
Yeah.
Battlestar Galactica, actually.
Why was there a change in format in the later seasons?
We got another executive producer who was a jerk. You know, his name was John Mantley. He was not affectionately called Lord John. It was his idea. He had no respect for his audience, and I'll give you an example of why. The first show of the second season was called Time of the Hawk. And he was, the great thing about John Mantley was you would think that he was the guy who carried Gunsmoke for all those years, and he was only in charge of the demise of Gunsmoke. But he wrote a script with Michael and Sarah playing the Apache chief, and Barbara Luna playing his wife, and of course Marshall Dillon and whatever. So he was laughing about the fact that he had basically taken that script and changed the characters to Hawk and his wife, and he was very pleased with the fact that he cast Barbara Luna in both roles. So we basically did a rip-off of an old Gunsmoke script with Time of the Hawk. So I even though one of the shows of my favorite show, one of my favorite shows other than a motion picture, was The Satyr. It was in the second season, and probably the thing I liked about it was that it reflected sort of where I always wanted to see Buck, and that is that he stayed on Earth and had adventures with people on Earth, because it was such a sort of prairie. Of course, it was on Earth. I hate to tell you, we didn't shoot that on another planet. But I know, I'm sorry. You probably think there's a Santa Claus too. Oh God, I didn't. I do so apologize. Anyway, it reflected sort of what I had always wanted to see happen with Buck, and that was that he stayed on Earth and had adventures on Earth with people who were surviving 500 years in the future. I just felt like it would appeal to a much wider audience than I thought we had too many special effects on the show. Because I said, you know, you can do that in Star Wars because people are only sitting there for 2 hours and they're in a theater and they see that and they go home and go, wow, weren't those special effects great? But we're in somebody's home and we're there every week. They have dinner with us, everything else. And I said, television, believe it or not, in spite of what they try to do, is a character-driven medium. Even if it's a reality show, what you do is you fall in love with those characters, or you really are interested in, where are you going? Did you have a pass that said you could rise? I'm just teasing you, don't worry. Don't worry, but if you move off that seat again, I'll kick your ass. Anyway, where was I before you so rudely interrupted me? My God. Were you going to get some water? Were you going to get some water? Oh, well, relax. Good God, man, don't be so anal. You can throw it away later. What's your name anyway? Hi, Michael, how are you? That's a great bag you got there, Michael. Are you going to take it home and burn it now? I'm just playing with you, Michael. You can tell me to get stuffed, it's fine. I'll smile. And I'll still kick your ass. That's right. And 5 other Chinese guys. Yeah. Anyway, television is a character-driven medium, and I just thought that we weren't getting as involved with the characters as we should. And I thought we would have. Now you're leaving. Bye. See, I don't know him as well, so I don't care. But see, if you leave, it hurts me. I can't have you do that, Michael. We go too far back. He's like, what the hell did I come in here for? So anyway, yeah, I just thought that we could have done with less special effects and more character. As a matter of fact, I went to the powers that be finally in the second season and said, look, this is what I always wanted to see happen with the show. And I told them what I wanted to do. And they said, God, that's the best idea we've heard in 2 years. Why haven't we heard it before? I said, because no one listened to me. So they had me call the president of NBC, who was Brandon Tartikoff at the time, and he was a good friend of mine. So they said, well, call Brandon and tell him this, because, the show was like really not going to be renewed if we didn't do something, because we were losing rating points. And I think the fans that watched the first season got kind of pissed off about the fact that we were ripping off Battlestar Galactica, and it was just kind of not the same fun kind of show that we had. So I called Brandon and told him what I just told the guys at Universal. And he said, well, it's a great idea. He said, if we pick it up for a third season, that's the way we'll go. He said, we won't do every show like that, but generally that's what we'll put Buck back on Earth and stop all this wandering all over the place. I think Universal liked it because they realized it would be less expensive to do a show that was based more on Earth and cut out some of the special effects on a weekly basis. Because Buck Rodgers at that time was the most expensive show on television. We were $1.5 million an episode. And that was in 1979, 80, and 81, which is $1.5 million was a lot of money. Actually, still is. So, you.
Did you ever direct or
Yes.
any of your episodes?
Not Buck Rodgers, no, but I directed a Sidekicks. And I didn't produce anything on Buck Rodgers. We didn't last long enough for me to get into that. I sort of did it in a behind-the-scenes kind of thing, but not for credit. The first season, I basically rewrote every script because they were really, oh God, they were dog meat. But they had a pretty decent germ of an idea. So I spent all my spare time sitting in my office rewriting scripts and trying to make sure that the cue lines were not any different for my fellow actors, so that they didn't walk in going, what? When do I come in? So, but it was, like I said, I produced a Broadway play, and I produced a movie, and then I produced 2 films for CBS, possible pilots that didn't sell, but they were, that was about it. Okay. Somebody else? Yes. Yeah. I was with Felix last week in Galveston, Texas. And I still talk to Aaron quite often, and not Tim so much. He lives up in Northern California. Don't talk to Tom. Very rarely. He lives in New York and is busy doing whatever Tom does. But yeah, keep in touch. I've actually had lunch with the director, Dan Howler, of the motion picture a couple of times out in L.A. and saw some of the producers and stuff that I stayed in touch with. Glenn Larson I stay in touch with still. So, thank you. Yes, sir.
What kind of show would you produce today, you think, that would go over well?
You mean what I produced today? I don't know if I'd want the headache of producing today. I don't know. I've got these 3 stories that that I'm working on. They're basically. Do you remember when Alfred Hitchcock did the books that said the stories that they wouldn't let me put on television? You remember that? Okay, well, he did a book called, Stories They Wouldn't Let Me Do on Television. And I was thinking about doing, stories of Buck Rodgers that we never got around to doing on television. I would love to produce a Buck Rodgers series that tied up a lot of loose ends that we had on the show initially that would be Buck on Earth. And the first story has to do with the fact that Buck is down rummaging through the archives, and he finds a message from a friend of his from 500 years before, who tells him basically, if you get this, I hope that means you made it back to Earth, and the explosion on board the shuttle was not an accident. And then it goes from there. Yeah, I got a crazy mind. And then Buck ends up going back to Anarchia and being captured by the Anarchians because he's looking for some artifacts in New Chicago. I haven't quite figured that out. What bothers me about the whole thing is that Buck Rodgers was set in Philadelphia, not in Chicago. And it always bothered me that Buck never questioned why he was landing in Chicago. Has there ever been a spaceport in Chicago? What in the hell is he doing there? And, you know, the question being also, why were they living in a domed city? Buck went out into Anarchia, was out there fine, you know, didn't get all those blisters and stuff all over him. Wilma came out to get him. She didn't come out in a hazmat suit. Neither did all the guards and everything. They didn't come out in a fully pressurized vehicle. They just slammed down the thing, ran out. She shot me, and they took me back. How come you're living in a dome? You know, those are the kinds of things that I'm working on with the books that I'm writing. But it's hard to really be enthusiastic about it because I'm not getting any kind of enthusiasm from the people that own the rights, which is the Dilly Family Foundation. And it's like, okay, you would think if they had any kind of a brain for marketing, that if the guy who played Buck Rodgers wants to write 3 stories about Buck Rodgers, you know, why not? And if they're crap, we'll get somebody else to write it. But I think the story ideas are good. If I can't deliver, that's another story, but at least, you know, give me the right to do it. And think of, you know, how you could make a buck. I knew one of you would get it. Yes. See, my fans are really sharp, you know? It's interesting because Flint Dilley, who is one of the family members who owned the rights to Buck Rodgers, whose grandfather, I think, basically created Buck Rodgers and hired Philip Nolan. Nolan? Yeah, I think that's his name. And people are leaving in droves. Okay, you must be a doctor, right? Okay, she's about to deliver? Okay, fine. Anyway, I was in San Diego, and we had a panel. And when the panel was over, he said, I've never seen a panel like this. It's everybody's smiling. Everybody's having a good time. It's like, those are my fans. Those are the Buck Rodgers fans. They have a good time. Go to Star Trek. Whoa. You know, I did a Star Trek. I just started to turn around and show you my banner, but it's not here. It has been a long day, yes. Where am I? Anyway, I did a panel for the Star Trek people, and I was like, God, you people don't have a sense of humor. Jesus Christ, it's sci-fi. I mean, it's supposed to be fun, I hope. Who would want to live in a future that is wet and dirty and really gloomy all the time, filled with psychopaths? I don't want to do that. I mean, I watched Blade Runner, and I thought, how are people so dirty and it's so wet? You think by Waterworld, another thing, how did they get so dirty? You think if they fell overboard, they'd accidentally get clean. Yeah. There's not dirt anywhere. They would love to find dirt, and these guys are the dirtiest guys I've ever seen. It's unreal. Anyway, I think we just had a happier sort of look at the future, in spite of some of the things that were going wrong. And I always felt like that I would like Buck to go back to Anarchia because they were the N-words of the 25th century, okay? Just because they looked different, because they had sores on their bodies and all this other stuff, it was like, oh, well, they're less than we are. And I always wanted Buck to go back and find out that these are just human beings. And yeah, they got these sores and stuff like that, but all they want is what everybody else wants, and that's a better life for their kids, a better life than they had. They're struggling, and they're dealing with these gangs of marauders who are going around making life hell for them, just like they do for whenever the director comes out. And then I thought, also, you can't blame the people in Anarchia for being pissed off at every time the director comes out there, they go out there and shoot them. And they're not helping them any. They're not giving them any help. They're not trying to aid them in any way. So, it's like, who can blame them for being so angry? There's all the people and dancing around and living under a dome with their synthetic sunsets and everything, thinking, oh, we're having a good time. And they're all out there struggling just to stay alive. So that's also something I would like to address in the first story. The humanity that's out there, and the fact that we as a society, wherever we are, have a responsibility to those people. See if we can't help them out. So, okay. Yes, sir.
Yes. My other question now.
Oh, you have it. Wow. Well, that's right. We got over here. Yes.
Yeah.
We did a part 1A, B. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, growing up, were you always interested in science fiction and comic books and superheroes and all that? And
No.
No.
Superman I thought was pretty cool. When I was growing up, because I grew up without television, there was radio. There were actually radio shows that I was not allowed to listen to because they were too adult for me. This is a radio show we're talking about. And of course, the first time my parents ever went out, and I used to secretly listen to Craft Suspense Theater. And I wasn't allowed to listen to that. And my parents went out one night, and Mercedes McCambridge scared the shit out of me on Craft Suspense Theater, to the point where my brother, who was babysitting me, I was upstairs listening to the radio. I went running downstairs going, ah! So there was a reason I couldn't listen to that radio show. But Saturday afternoon was my time that my mother gave me a quarter, and I took the bus downtown in Little Rock and went to the Roxy Theater and watched, usually it was a John Wayne movie, and various what they call cliffhangers, the serialized things. They had Buck Rodgers with Buster Crabbe. I didn't care for it. I liked Johnny Mac Brown, Hopalong Cassidy, Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, those kind of people. And then I also liked Jungle Jim with Johnny Weissmuller. And I liked his Tarzan, actually. I enjoyed that. But generally didn't care much for the science fiction. I thought it was kind of dumb. So, and then I met Buster later, and he paid me back for that. Because Buster said to me, he said, everybody thinks these new special effects are all the whiz-bang and they're the greatest and all this kind of stuff. He said, well, when we shot Buck Rodgers back in the 20s, everybody thought that was the greatest thing in the world, and wow, this is just better than sliced bread. And he said, now everybody, 50 years later, everybody's laughing at, the strings and everything else. And so he said, I wonder how long these great special effects will last, if they will last even 50 years. So I called Buster about a year later and called him a name, because I said, you SOB, I said, you've ruined me for watching any Buck Rodgers. I can't help but go, do they still held up? Are they okay? Now, I must say, once in a while I'll catch an episode of Buck Rodgers, and I think that they still hold up. They're not stupid. They're not CGI, but they're not bad. So those guys did a hell of a job. They never got the credit they should have gotten for that, because they really did a great job. And they did that every week. Star Wars has 2 years to do their special effects. They did this every week. Amazing, amazing. And they were always being compared to Star Wars, the special effects, which I thought was totally unfair. They didn't have the money that Star Wars did, and they didn't have the time. And yet they did do a hell of a job. So, okay, yes.
Mr. Gerard, thanks for coming out here to Albuquerque and seeing us. I've got a couple things I want to say. First off, when I was younger and I was watching Buck Rodgers, you know, the Captain Buck Rodgers out there in the 25th century, you're one of my heroes. At least he was.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of...
I'm not. I see.
I don't know you well enough.
It's been a long day. Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What'd I do?
Yeah, your donations to...
Haven House?
I'm sorry?
Haven House.
Yes. But as an actor, my question is it harder for an actor to act in a sci-fi than, let's say, General Hospital or even a modern-day police show? We get to see the finished product. You, as an actor, don't get to see that.
Well, I did. I watched the show when it was on the air. It's more difficult in some respects, but it's finding the reality in a situation, no matter how bizarre it may be. That's really the key. I know that we did a lot of blue screen work, and many times they hadn't finished the special effects. For instance, we would have a monster that would be attacking us, and I'd say, well, where is it? Is it 20 feet tall? Is it 6 feet tall? Is it crawling on the ground? And they were like, well, we don't really know. It hasn't been done yet. So I'd say, okay. So we would shoot, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, to try to cover that. And what you do is that's why they pay you the big bucks. You make it believable. You see that whatever it is, even though they don't know what it is yet, you created in your own mind this horrible monster that's 20 feet tall, 10 feet tall, 6 feet tall. Oh my God, it's slithering on the ground and it's going to get me, We did the same thing with the Starfighter, the dogfights. They hadn't been done yet either. Because I would say, where's this guy coming from when I go, watch out? We don't know yet. Okay. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out. You try to give them stuff that they can use. That that's what I'm there for, to try to help, to get my coverage on what's supposed to happen. And at least I give them something that they can decide, okay, we'll bring it in from here because he says, watch out. Or we bring it in from here because he goes, watch out. So that's kind of fun. The blue screen's interesting. I fell asleep many times in the Starfighter while they were adjusting the star field behind me. It took like forever. And I was up 3 stories up on a gimbal, which it's a platform that moves like this, so they could do the whole fight scene. But they had to get the star field in the background to be still, because you couldn't have stars smearing across the back. Didn't make a lot of sense. So they had to make sure they had to lock in the camera, and I had to be there for the whole thing. And many of the time I would sit there, because I was up every day practically at 4:30 in the morning and worked until 10 o'clock at night. So I was a little tired a lot of the times. So I remember John Voight came over with his 2 kids, and Angelina was a little smaller then than she is now. And he said, do you mind if I come over and we watch some of the stuff and I bring the kids? I said, yeah, but I said, you're going to be bored to death. I said, it looks exciting on the screen, but it's not all, it's like, oh God, it takes forever. But he came over and, I looked down there, he was like, hey John, how you doing? And actually we had a double date. We went to the premiere of Star Wars together. So he's a good guy, John is.
Well, thank you. You made it believable for me.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That was the point. You know, if you didn't believe it, we're not earning our money, you know?
We have time for one more question if anyone has one.
It's like an AA meeting. Do we have a burning desire? That has nothing to do with my sex life. Do you have a burning desire to hear about my sex life? No, he didn't. No, I always said, guess what didn't thaw out? His buck never got laid. Yeah, they all wanted him, but he obviously couldn't deliver or something. I'm not sure what happened to the old boy. I think he, accidentally banged it against the before he totally thawed out, he got banged against the door jamb and fell off. Anyway. Now, here we go again. See, you ask these dirty questions. I can't believe it. You were the one that started in the first place. We got into titty bars and stuff. Now we're talking about all this other stuff. Anyway, go ahead.
Blame me, being here being here in Albuquerque a few times. What's your favorite chili? Which everybody else.
My favorite chili?
Yeah.
Oh, red or green? Yeah. I don't know. Are there factions here? The reds go against the greens?
It's actually
they have
our
battles?
official state questions.
Huh?
It's our official state question.
Oh, red or green?
Yep.
That's the official state question?
That is our question.
If that's all you got to worry about, you guys got something really good going here. If that's all you guys worry about. As long as you're not having like West Side Story, knife fights between the reds and the greens, and singing Officer Krumke. Huh? Yeah, it really is great. What a great show, huh?
I have a quick question for you.
Okay.
You have been in this field for so long. How does the 60s television series and movies compare with this decade? What changes did you see and which is your favorite?
Well, where are you going? You knew you were in trouble. She was trying to sneak out. Oh, here comes everybody's leaving. Do you not care? Huh?
I told her to stay put.
Yeah. She didn't listen. Go ahead. I'm just giving you a hard time. Yeah. I still love you, though. It's okay. I'm deeply hurt that you left me at this juncture, but it's all right. Barely. Only because I'm so strong. Anyway. Oh, yeah. Actually, it was the 60s. Buck was in the 70s and 80s, late 70s, early 80s. But, I grew up, as I said before, with radio. Then when I was in the 6th grade, we had our first television, which was basically a blizzard with characters in it. And it didn't matter, they could be Hopalong Cassidy or whatever. They always were riding through a blizzard. But in the 50s, particularly from the mid 50s into the early 60s, I consider that the golden age of television. Because literally you could see a Western, a doctor show, a lawyer show, a variety show. You could see live theater, Westinghouse Presents. I watched all those things. Paul Newman was in television at that time. He was doing live theater on television, and they were shot live. They were, if they made a mistake, it was there for all to see. They weren't taping. They didn't have the capability of taping these shows. So unfortunately, a lot of these were lost. But it was amazing. It was just this incredible array of shows that you could watch. If you wanted to watch slapstick, stupid comedy, you got Sid Caesar's, comedy show, and you had musical variety shows, Sonny and Cher, singing, Andy Williams, all these people, Perry Como. I mean, it was like, and they were all on the air at the same time. So, and you could watch like a Western, and it was amazing. And they're really good stuff, really well-written shows. And to tell you the truth, I think that the demise of television as a golden age began with Batman. Because I know what can I tell you? Either with all that boff biff bam going on, right? It was a really dumb show. But it was, there were a lot of dumb shows on the air. But what happened was something very telling. Batman was on the air, and John Glenn went up, the first American to orbit the Earth. And they cut into Batman, and the local television stations were flooded with people protesting that their Batman episode was cut off because they were covering a man in space for the first time, an American in space for the first time. It was, I think the network executives went, "Oh, you want that shit? Okay." And then all of a sudden, all these other shows that were so amazing and so well written and so, you would not believe the stuff that they were covering in their stories and stuff. And all of a sudden, they began to disappear, and it just became this kind of wasteland of idiocy. The fact that I was so unimpressed with Batman is the reason I initially turned down Buck Rodgers 3 times. Because I said, I know what Adam West's career has been like. I do not want that career. The man was not hired for anything for over 20 years. The only way he supported his family was doing dinner theater around the country. They wouldn't even hire him for a game show. And I thought, I don't want that career. I don't want to do a comic book character and end up like that. And the sad thing is that Adam's got a great sense of humor, and I think finally people are beginning to see that, and he's gotten the opportunity to do a few things. He's only 80-some years old now, but hey, at least he's getting something. But when they first offered me Buck Rodgers, I just said, no way. I do not want Adam West's career, and I don't want to do Bop Biff Bam, and I don't want to do, little cartoon things and all that. So, but that's just my opinion. It's one man, that's why they make different flavors of ice cream. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But mine is that was really the beginning. Just looking at it and looking at how the quality of television went from up here and the incredible variety of television shows began to drop off, and you got more and more Me Too, Me Too, Me Too, and it just went like that until we have this kind of, I think, except for a few, very few exceptions, it's a desert. The good ones, yeah. I rarely watch network television anymore. And the thing is that there have been network shows that I've started to watch and really enjoyed, and then they dumbed them down. Or it's like, what? I never will understand. Well, that's a dramatic license on CSI. They don't do that kind of stuff. They don't carry guns. They don't make arrests. They go on, they sit in the lab, and they bring the stuff is brought to them, and the detectives come in and they go, here, we need this right away. Well, I'm very busy right now, that kind of stuff. They don't go out and apprehend people. But, you look at it and you go, okay, it's dramatic license, I guess. But, I've stopped watching CSI. I can't stand it anymore. I stopped watching it after Lawrence Fishburne left the show. And Ted Danson I like. And initially it was okay, and then it just got kind of dumb. And I thought, okay. Criminal Minds got really stupid. What is all that secret agent crap they pull with what's-her-face? You know, she was really not killed. She was a secret agent in some place. And then some arch enemy came and tried to kill her. It's like, where the hell do we get all this? You know, I thought these were actual cases of the FBI. Now you've gone off into la la land somewhere. Anyway, that's, again, it's just my opinion. Love me or hate me, it's okay. I can take it. My shoulders are broad. What? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you can call it love on my part, but I have a great deal of affection, and I take a great deal of pride in the quality of my fans. And I just want you to know that. It's sincere. I really do respect all of you, and I like you to be treated properly. So, yes, sir.
You have a lot more fans. It's just that if you were in the 2 o'clock block, this whole room would be filled. But everybody right now is at the costume contest. So I decided not to go to the costume contest.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any final thoughts or words to your most loyal of fans at this Comic-Con?
No, I had to talk them into staying, and they did, which is really great. They were going to leave. They were walking out the door, and he came up and said how much he enjoyed the show and all that kind of. She did the same, and I said, "Well, stay. I'm doing a Q&A." "Oh, we have to get home," and then they came in. See, that's the kind of fans I have. I love that, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, that's enough now. You get me all excited, I won't be able to sleep.